Commander Vex 9's four-fingered hand drummed an impatient rhythm on the sleek observation deck console. Below, in the stark white testing chamber, a lone figure moved with an almost unsettling ease. Three pairs of yellow, multifaceted eyes, belonging to Vex 9 and his two senior staff, blinked in synchronized disbelief as they watched. The human, Vex 9 grumbled, his voice a low, gravelly rumble, always the humans, always a new challenge. He didn't even try to hide the annoyance that laced his tone. "Run the statistics by me again," he commanded, turning to the nervous figure beside him. "And please, Technician Lore, try to make sense this time." Technician Lore, a slender Arthaxian with skin the color of a pale, perpetually moist sky, fidgeted with her atmosphere regulator. Her species, known for their meticulous data analysis and unwavering adherence to protocol, rarely encountered variables as unpredictable as humans. "Yes, Commander," she began, her voice a reedy whisper, "the human recruit, Jackson West, has completed all preliminary tests with unprecedented results." Vex 9's multi-jointed fingers paused their drumming. "Unprecedented," he repeated, drawing out each syllable as if the word itself were a noxious fume. "That word seems to follow these humans wherever they go." Senior biologist Raz, the oldest of the three aliens, let out a sound that was, for his species, a distinct chuckle. It was a strange, whistling noise, escaping through the numerous nasal cavities that adorned his broad face. "You must admit, Commander," Draz wheezed, his yellow eyes twinkling, "they are fascinating specimens. Especially this one." Below them, completely oblivious to the intense scrutiny, Jackson West continued to pace the circular chamber. He was tall, even for a human, though still noticeably shorter than the towering average of most Galactic Alliance species. His frame was a testament to disciplined physical conditioning, every muscle clearly defined beneath his medium-brown skin. A crop of short, dark curls framed a face that, even from this distance, exuded a quiet confidence. Every few seconds, he would subtly bounce on the balls of his feet, a small, unconscious gesture as if perpetually testing the very ground beneath him. "Fascinating is not the word I would use," Commander Vex 9 muttered, his gaze fixed on the human. "Disruptive. Unpredictable. Potentially dangerous." He shifted, his posture stiffening. The Alliance Council voted unanimously to allow human integration, Technician Lore reminded him gently, her voice barely audible. "Politicians," Vex 9 spat, the word laced with disdain. "They see only potential resources, not potential threats." He gestured impatiently towards the chamber. "Speaking of potential," Draz interjected, his whistling laugh echoing softly, "shall we begin the gravity tests?" The human appears ready. Commander Vex 9 flicked a hand dismissively. "Proceed. Standard protocol. Begin at 1.2 times Earth gravity and increase incrementally." Technician Lore leaned forward, her pale blue skin glistening under the console lights, and activated the communication panel. "Recruit West," she announced, her voice calm and professional, "we will now begin gravity testing. We will start at 1.2 Earth standard and increase gradually. Please inform us immediately if you experience any discomfort." Jackson West looked up towards the observation window, a quick, confident thumbs-up gesture his only reply. His voice, coming through the speakers with that strange, flat resonance common to all human vocalizations, was surprisingly casual. "Ready when you are, Technician Lore." Lore adjusted the controls, and a low hum filled the observation deck as the gravity field in the chamber below intensified. The monitoring equipment immediately showed a sharp spike in the human's heart rate and blood pressure, followed by an almost instantaneous regression back to near baseline levels. 1.2 Earth gravity achieved, Lore announced, her gaze fixed on the data. Subject appears to be adjusting normally. HMMPF, Commander Vex 9 grunted, unimpressed. "Hardly impressive. Most species can handle up to 1.3 without significant strain." "Yes, Commander," Lore agreed, but humans evolved on a planet with relatively light gravity compared to most Alliance homeworlds. Even Arthaxians like myself come from a world with 1.4 Earth gravity. Move to 1.5, Vex 9 ordered, a flicker of something akin to curiosity, despite himself, sparking in his yellow eyes. Below them, Jackson West continued to move around the chamber, now performing what appeared to be slow, deliberate stretching exercises. As the gravity increased, his movements became slightly more calculated, but he showed no discernible signs of distress. 1.5 achieved, Lore reported, her eyes wide with a subtle astonishment. Subject's vital signs remain within acceptable parameters. Interesting, Draz murmured, his eyes fixed on the biological readings. His muscle fiber response is unusual. He's adapting at the cellular level, more quickly than our models predicted. Continue, Vex 9 said, leaning forward slightly despite his earlier dismissal. They watched as the gravity in the chamber was incrementally increased to 1.7, then 1.8 Earth standard. The human's movements became noticeably more labored. Sweat began to bead on his forehead and arms, glistening under the chamber's bright lights, but his expression remained a mask of unwavering determination. He should be struggling significantly at this point, Draz noted, a genuine surprise in his voice. Most species without specific gravitational adaptations would be experiencing severe discomfort. Humans, Commander Vex 9 said, as if the word itself was a complete explanation. Their homeworld's gravity might be light, but they have evolved with unusually dense musculature and robust skeletal structures. And, as we've observed, a disconcerting tendency towards warlike tendencies. Commander. Lore interrupted, her voice suddenly urgent. The human is requesting to communicate. Vex 9's head snapped up. Put him through. Hey, up there. Jackson West's voice, though noticeably strained, was surprisingly cheerful as it echoed through the observation deck. Just wondering, what's the current setting? 1.8 Earth standard gravity, Lore replied, her voice tinged with a mixture of awe and bewilderment. The human grinned, a wide, genuine smile that seemed utterly out of place given the immense forces pressing down on him. 1.8 Earth standard gravity, Lore's voice echoed, carrying a hint of bewilderment. Jackson West, the human recruit, simply grinned wider. Nice, he said, his voice still surprisingly light despite the obvious strain. Feels like a good warm-up. What's next? Commander Vex 9's yellow eyes narrowed. This was not typical. Most species, even those from higher gravity worlds, would be exhibiting clear signs of discomfort, if not outright struggle, at 1.8 Earth standard. The human, however, seemed to be enjoying it. A strange, unsettling thought flickered through Vex 9's mind. Was this a display of defiance, or something else entirely? He's resilient, senior biologist Draz murmured, his multifaceted eyes fixed on the human's biological readings. His internal systems are showing remarkable stability. The cellular adaptation we observed earlier is accelerating. It's as if his body is re-engineering itself on the fly. Technician Lore, always one for precision, looked up from her console. Commander, his oxygen consumption is slightly elevated, but well within acceptable parameters. His skeletal density readings are showing an unusual increase, almost as if his bones are subtly strengthening in real time. Vex 9 grunted. Continue the increment. Take it to 2.0 Earth standard. He leaned forward, his massive frame almost touching the glass of the observation deck. He had seen many species undergo gravity acclimatization, but never anything like this. Humans, with their seemingly fragile forms, were proving to be an enigma. Their history was rife with tales of pushing physical limits, of overcoming impossible odds, but this was beyond even the most exaggerated human legend. Below, in the chamber, Jackson West's grin remained. He took a deep breath, his chest expanding with effort, and then slowly began to perform a series of deep knee bends, his movements fluid despite the immense pressure. The sweat on his brow became more pronounced, trickling down his temples, but his eyes held a keen, almost playful light. 2.0, Lore announced, her voice now tinged with undeniable awe. Subject's vital signs are still remarkably stable. There's a slight tremor in his legs, but he's maintaining control. Most impressive, Draz whistled, a genuine note of admiration in his voice. At this level, species from 1.5 Earth gravity worlds would be collapsing. He's not just enduring, he's exercising. Commander Vex 9 found himself nodding, a rare display of concession. Indeed. It seems their dense musculature and robust skeletal structures are more significant than our initial models predicted. He paused, then his eyes glinted with a renewed challenge. Let's see just how robust. Lore, increased to 2.2 Earth standard. A moment of hesitation. Commander, with all due respect, our safety protocols recommend a slower increment at this stage. Pushing too fast could result in irreversible damage. Vex 9's gaze was unyielding. Proceed, technician. We need to understand the true limits of this species. And this recruit has shown us he can handle more than protocol suggests. With a deep breath, Lore initiated the next gravity increase. A groan, low and resonant, vibrated through the chamber's floor. Jackson West's movements became noticeably slower, more deliberate. His powerful muscles visibly tensed under his skin, cords of steel fighting against the invisible force. The sweat now poured, soaking his dark hair and running in rivulets down his face. But still, the grin persisted, though it was now tighter, a testament to sheer will. 2.2 Earth standard achieved, Lore reported, her voice hushed. Heart rate, elevated but steady. Blood pressure, holding. He's breathing heavily, Commander. Jackson West suddenly stopped his exercises. He stood perfectly still, his body trembling almost imperceptibly, his eyes fixed on the observation window. Then, a low chuckle escaped him, echoing strangely in the high-gravity environment. You guys aren't messing around, are you? He called out, his voice now a strained rasp, but still carrying that undeniable cheerfulness. This is invigorating. Are we almost at the fun part? Commander Vex 9 stared. The fun part, he repeated, utterly bewildered. This human was a complete aberration. Most sentient beings, when faced with such crushing forces, would be begging for release, not asking for more. Draz, what in the name of the Outer Rim is he talking about? Draz whirred and clicked, his numerous data streams processing the human's bizarre statement. Commander, his psychological profile indicates a strong affinity for challenge and competition. It is possible, he genuinely enjoys this level of physical exertion, even under extreme conditions. Enjoyment? Vex 9 snorted. At 2.2 Earth standard? That's not enjoyment, that's madness. Lore, prepare to stabilize. We'll hold at 2.2 for a longer duration to monitor his full adaptation. Just as Lore was about to confirm, Jackson West's voice cut through the comms again, louder this time, brimming with an almost infectious enthusiasm. No, wait, he bellowed, his eyes sparkling with an uncontainable energy that defied the crushing weight upon him. He took another deep, shuddering breath, then straightened his posture, his shoulders squaring under the immense pressure. A wide, almost defiant grin split his sweat-streaked face. This is good, really good, he panted, a bead of sweat tracing a path down his cheek. But you know what? He paused, his gaze locking directly with the observation window, as if seeing them clearly through the reinforced glass. His next words, though delivered with effort, rang out with startling clarity and a mischievous glint in his eye. Make it 3. The silence in the observation deck was absolute. Vex 9, Lore, and Draz stood frozen, their multifaceted eyes wide with utter disbelief. The human, under gravity twice as strong as his homeworlds, had not only smiled, but had calmly, casually, and with a glint of pure joy, asked for more. The words hung in the air, a surreal echo in the stunned silence of the observation deck, make it 3. Commander Vex 9, a veteran of countless interspecies negotiations and highly volatile missions, found himself momentarily speechless. His multifaceted eyes, usually sharp and discerning, were wide with a confusion he hadn't felt in centuries. Technician Lore's pale blue skin seemed to grow even paler, and she looked from the human to Vex 9, then back again, as if hoping to find an explanation for this unprecedented audacity. Senior biologist Draz, ever the scientist, began whirring and clicking frantically, his internal processors struggling to reconcile the human's request with all known biological and psychological data. He asked for 3. Lore finally whispered, her voice barely audible. 3 times Earth standard gravity, Commander. Vex 9 shook his head slowly, as if to clear the impossible notion from his mind. He did. He actually did. His irritation, usually a dominant emotion when dealing with humans, was now eclipsed by a profound sense of bewilderment. This was beyond disruptive, this was magnificent. And completely insane. Commander, that is, highly inadvisable, Lore stated, regaining some of her professional composure, though her voice still trembled slightly. Our models predict catastrophic structural failure for human physiology at 2.5 Earth standard, let alone 3. His bones would shatter, his organs would rupture, his very cellular structure would be compressed beyond recognition. And yet, Draz interjected, his whistling laugh surprisingly absent, his current biological readings, while stressed, show no immediate signs of impending collapse. His musculature is adapting at an astounding rate. His circulatory system is under immense strain, but it's holding. It's as if his body is undergoing rapid microevolution in real time. Vex 9 stared down at Jackson West. The human stood there, still under the crushing weight of 2.2 gs, his chest heaving, sweat streaming, but that impossible, challenging grin still plastered across his face. There was no fear in his eyes, only a fierce, exhilarating eagerness. He's testing us, Vex 9 mused aloud, a new understanding dawning on him. He's not just enduring, he's pushing the boundaries, seeing how far he can go, how far we will let him go. Or, Draz offered, he simply has an unparalleled capacity for masochism. Regardless, Vex 9 decided, his voice now firm, we cannot simply ignore a direct request, especially one so unusual. Lore, prepare the system. Increase gravity to 2.5 Earth standard. Commander. Lore protested, her hands hovering over the controls. At least allow for a brief stabilization period. His body needs time to acclimate. He just asked for 3, Vex 9 countered, his yellow eyes fixing on Lore. He's not asking for a break. He's asking for a challenge. This isn't just a test of his physical limits, technician, it's a test of ours. A test of our understanding, our protocols, our willingness to accept the truly unprecedented. Reluctantly, Lore began the process. A warning siren blared softly in the observation deck, an automated alert for pushing beyond recommended safety parameters. The hum from the chamber below deepened into a low, resonant growl. Jackson West braced himself, his legs spreading slightly, his hands clenching into fists at his sides. His face contorted slightly with the effort, but the grin, though strained, held. 2.5 Earth standard, Lore announced, her voice tight with apprehension. Subject is, experiencing significant vital sign changes. Heart rate spiking to critical levels, blood pressure dangerously high. Muscle fibers are tearing and regenerating at an accelerated rate. Bone density, increasing sharply. The human let out a guttural roar, a sound that was less of pain and more of raw, primal exertion. He swayed for a moment, his body fighting the invisible press, then, with a Herculean effort, he straightened himself, digging his feet into the padded floor of the chamber. His eyes were wide, bloodshot with strain, but still held that unyielding light. He looked up at the window, and incredibly, he winked. Still here, he gasped, his voice barely a whisper, but still carrying that triumphant edge. What did I tell ya? This is where the fun begins. Draz let out a shocked series of clicks and whistles. Remarkable. Unbelievable. His body is regenerating damage almost as quickly as it occurs. This is beyond anything documented in Alliance medical history. Vex 9's gaze was glued to the human. He was pushing himself to the absolute brink, defying every established scientific principle, every logical prediction. And he was smiling through it. He's not just a recruit, Vex 9 murmured, a strange mix of fear and awe in his voice. He's a force of nature. Lore, prepare for 2.8 Earth standard. And then, we will give him his 3. Lore gasped, her pale blue hands flying to her mouth. Commander. That is suicide. He won't survive. He asked for it, Vex 9 said, his voice flat, resolute. And we will see if he is truly as mad, or as magnificent, as he appears. The command hung heavy in the air, prepare for 2.8 Earth standard. And then, we will give him his 3. Technician Lore's pale blue skin seemed to drain of all color, and she stared at Commander Vex 9 as if he had just proposed dismantling the observation deck with his bare hands. Commander, with all due respect, this goes against every ethical guideline. We are risking his life. Her voice rose in pitch, betraying her profound distress. Senior biologist Draz, usually the voice of calm scientific observation, was whirring and clicking with an unprecedented intensity. Lore is correct, Commander, he articulated, his voice a rapid series of agitated clicks. His biological markers are pushed to their absolute maximum. While his regenerative capabilities are astounding, there's a limit. Even for a human. We risk permanent, irreparable damage to his neural pathways, his cardiovascular system, even his basic cellular integrity. Vex 9 held up a single, four-fingered hand, silencing them. His yellow eyes, usually unreadable, now held a deep, unyielding resolve. I understand the risks, technician. Biologist. But this is not just about the recruit's safety. This is about understanding the very nature of humanity. He has pushed us to this point. We must see where his limits truly lie. Or where his will breaks. Below them, Jackson West was an image of strained defiance. His entire body trembled, not with fear, but with the immense effort of simply existing under 2.5 GS. Every muscle was rigid, every breath a monumental task. Yet, incredibly, when he looked up at the observation window, there was still that hint of a challenging smile, a fire in his bloodshot eyes that refused to be extinguished. He coughed, a dry, ragged sound, and a trickle of blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. Lore gasped. Commander, he's showing signs of internal hemorrhaging. A minor bleed, Vex 9 stated, though his voice had a slight tremor. His body will compensate. Increase to 2.8. With a deep, shuddering breath, Lore initiated the next phase. The chamber's hum intensified into a low, guttural roar that vibrated through the very deck plates. The air in the observation room seemed to grow heavier, as if the immense pressure below was somehow leaching into their space. Jackson West let out another primal roar, a desperate sound of pure struggle that was almost painful to hear. His knees buckled, and for a terrifying moment, it seemed he would collapse. But then, with a surge of almost superhuman will, he pushed himself back upright, his head thrown back, a scream of pure, raw effort tearing from his throat. 2.8 Earth standard achieved. Lore practically shrieked, her hands pressed against her mouth. His heart rate is off the charts. His blood pressure is fluctuating wildly. I'm seeing microfractures in his tibia and fibula. Draz was clicking frantically, his data screens flashing a cacophony of red alerts. Commander, his cellular cohesion is deteriorating. He's approaching critical mass. Any further increase will tear him apart. Jackson West was no longer smiling. His face was a mask of agony, every vein bulging, every muscle screaming under the impossible weight. His entire body was shaking uncontrollably, his vision probably blurring. But still, he stood. He was a monument to sheer, unadulterated human stubbornness. He looked up at the observation window again, and this time, there was no cheerful grin. There was only raw, desperate determination. He managed to lift one trembling hand, slowly, agonizingly, and gave a single, shaky thumbs up. His lips moved, forming a single, rasping word that barely reached the microphone: more. A profound silence descended upon the observation deck. More, Vex 9 repeated, his own voice barely a whisper. The human, broken, bleeding, and pushed beyond all reasonable limits, was still asking for more. It wasn't defiance anymore, it was an innate, unyielding drive that defied all alien understanding. Vex 9's long, four-fingered hand reached out, hovering over the controls. He looked at Lore, her face etched with fear and pleading. He looked at Draz, his sensors screaming warnings. And then he looked back at Jackson West, the broken, yet unbroken, human. A profound realization washed over him. This wasn't just a test of gravity. This was a revelation of what it meant to be human. Stabilize at 2.8, Vex 9 commanded, his voice surprisingly soft. Hold it. Initiate medical intervention immediately if his vitals drop below critical recovery thresholds. Lore, her eyes wide with surprise and relief, quickly began adjusting the controls to stabilize the gravity field. The roaring hum of the chamber subsided slightly, though the immense pressure remained. Jackson West slumped, his shoulders finally dropping, but he remained standing, swaying precariously. His head bowed, his body trembling, but he had endured. Commander? Draz whirred, surprised by the change in orders. You're not increasing it to 3? Vex 9 turned from the console, his gaze still fixed on the human below. No, he said, a strange reverence in his voice. We don't need to. We have seen what we needed to see. We have witnessed the human limit, and it is far, far beyond what we ever conceived. There are some things, he added, his voice almost a whisper, that data alone cannot fully explain. And this human, this Jackson West, is one of them.